I know before the BBC News we're talking about the price floor and everything about petroleum and how this week it's been a back and forth. The CEO of Star Oil saying, well, if we didn't have a price floor, he probably could have reduced his, the price of fuel further, particularly during the night off-peak hours to aid the night economy. The CEO of Goil got in and said, well, but if you want to do that, why don't you get to the floor now? It's 9 cities, 80 pesos. So reduce your fuel to that level. Don't do 9.97 and tell us you can actually do that. But in the midst of all of this, former power minister, Dr. Kwabena Donkor, has a view on this. He thinks we have to do things right. And he's joined us on the phone to have this conversation. Dr. Kwabena Donkor, good morning, and thank you very much for joining us.
Good morning, and a wonderful morning to your listeners.
And a happy new year to you. So let's get straight to it. Now, the petroleum price floor has become a major issue over the last 24 hours. What's your take on this? Some say remove the whole pricing floor. Others say maintain it. Now, you've been in this industry. You know it very well. What's your take?
My take is that for temporal advantage, we are in danger of destroying a cardinal principle of petroleum pricing in Ghana. That is uniform petroleum price across the country. You see, like you said, I've been involved in this. Indeed, when I was chief executive of BOSS in the late 90s, I was responsible for petroleum pricing. And I've been involved since then. This country decided as a matter of national policy that petroleum prices should be same across the country, irrespective of geographical location. That is the undergirding principle of the Uniform Petroleum Pricing Fund that we contribute to in order to maintain this policy of having the same price across the country. I was also involved in deregulation. When you deregulate, that is when you need a strong regulator to put in the checks. The regulator is to protect the consumer and industry. And therefore, reducing prices, I am a consumer, and I am extremely happy that prices are coming down. But by the way, prices are coming down for two major reasons. One, rising on the international market is coming down. And two, we have a strong CD now. The combination of the two automatically results in a downward trend in pricing. However, what some OMCs are doing breaks the law, and there is a law on Uniform Petroleum Pricing Fund, and undergirding that law is that you must sell at the same price across your network.
Okay.
You can decide, if you decide to discount, you should discount across the whole network. You cannot discount on selected filling stations.
Okay, so if I get you right, you're saying the situation where we've seen some OMCs, for instance, saying that at some, of their networks, they're selling at, say, sub 10 Ghana cedis. At other areas, it's 10 point something. You say that is breaking the law?
Yes, it breaks the law.
How? How does that break the law?
It breaks both the spirit and the letter of the law.
Help us understand.
You see, the law is that you are free to set your prices. For example, the floor price for petrol, as said by NPA, is 9 cedis, 80 pesos. The floor price for diesel is 10 cedis, 47 pesos per liter. You are free to sell at that price, or even if you want to sell below that, with the permission of the regulator, you are free to do that. But it must be across all your filling stations, not some. You can do promotion to attract more customers. For example, the Novel breakfast offering is promotion. That does not affect the pricing. So if you choose to do breakfast at your filling stations, free breakfast, and for that reason people go to buy more products there, that is fine. You are not breaking the law. But discriminating in pricing across filling stations in your network is breaking the law. We must be very conscious of protecting the national interest. You see, in this country, if you take cement, the poorer section of the country, the geographical poorer section is the northern section. They pay more for cement than the richer section, which is the southern section, because of geography, transportation. It is to avoid this that the uniform petroleum pricing policy is in place, that irrespective of where you are in Ghana, you buy petrol at the same price. However, with deregulation, we say OMCs can fix their prices within a reasonable margin. And so, if an OMC chooses to fix a price at, say, 9.70, that price must be across all their network, across all filling stations, not some filling stations. And I'm therefore calling on the regulator to enforce the law. Other than that, this marketing gimmick in no time will result in different pricing across the country, based on geography.
So I look at the petroleum product pricing guidelines, and the point you make is in point 10 that says OMCs and LPGMCs shall ensure that all retail outlets operating under their sponsorship always have a uniform ex-pump price, and that these prices are the same as those that have been communicated to the NPA. Point 11 says, point 10 above notwithstanding, a retail outlet may offer discounts to consumers. The discounted price shall not be below the prevailing S-pump price floor set by the authority at any point. So, point 11 says...
The discount itself, you see, NPA cannot change by guidelines what is national policy. Let's get that right. You cannot use guidelines to change regulations. You cannot use guidelines to change policy. If you are discounting, you must discount across your network. That is a fundamental principle.
Yes, but while you call for stronger regulation, these guidelines issued in August 2024 says, in exercise of the power conferred on the NPA by the NPA Act 2005, Act 691, to regulate, oversee and monitor activities in the petroleum downstream industry in Ghana. These guidelines have been developed for petroleum service providers operating in the industry. These guidelines may be cited as the Petroleum Products Pricing Guidelines 2024. And the purpose of these guidelines is to ensure transparency and order in the pricing of petroleum products and to promote fair competition amongst PSPs.
Yes, what does the regulation on the Uniform Petroleum Pricing Fund say? The regulation, and remember, there's a hierarchy of laws.
Sure.
The Constitution, Statutory Acts, subsidiary legislation, which are regulations, and then guidelines and other directives. The position is that you can discount, but you cannot discount to distort pricing in your network. And that is where the regulator must come in. If you are discounting across your network, Kwabena Donkor has no issue with that. But when you are discounting to distort pricing within the network, you pick and choose where prices should be lower and why prices should be at the general level. That is not right. That is against the national interest. That is against the Uniform Petroleum Pricing Policy, which the fund seeks to support.
Okay, so based on your understanding of the laws, you say what say GOIL is done is against the law.
Yes, and indeed, GOIL itself says it's only reacting to what STAR has been allowed to do. They are both indigenous companies. We must not allow them to distort not just the market but the law. If you want to give discounts, please feel free, but it should be across all your filling stations.
Mr. Kwabena Donkor, this is Kujakuto Boating here. So I'm looking at the petroleum pricing formula, the price build-up, and we have UPPF, which is the Unified Petroleum Price Fund, which ensures that products reach consumers wherever they live in Ghana efficiently. You mentioned that earlier, so that we have same prices across the country, so people in the north don't lose out. And then we have the dealers' margins and all those things. So in the case where a dealer's operations are so optimized and effective and they can drop their margins to offer their consumers more value, should that be a problem? That's number one. Number two, we're also talking about price competition. We are talking about consumers getting more benefits, and we're also talking about businesses now becoming too efficient. So there are people who are saying we should rather be talking about a price ceiling, not a price floor, so that we force the businesses to be as efficient as possible to offer more value to consumers.
I don't buy that argument. If you allow that, invariably the volumes are in the south. Therefore, the competition, the discounts will largely be in the south. And the northern part of the country, where volumes are relatively lower, will not enjoy those discounts.
But UPPF has not been removed, and that is what ensures that we take care of all these transportation issues and all this extra stress that will not encourage dealers to go to the north. It's still there.
You see, the only reason that we have UPPF is to have uniform pricing across the country. The difference, what will make the difference is geography, location. And so UPPF takes care of the geographical differential, the differential that are risen out of geography, out of your location. So once that is taken care of, there is no reason for you to sell at a lower price in a particular filling station than another filling station in your network.
Okay.
That is almost sanctimonious, but you must sell at the same price across your filling stations.
Great. Now, talking about regulations and all, I look at the NPA Act, Section 80 regulations. It says the authority may, by legislative instrument, make regulations to prescribe the criteria and determinants for formulation by the board of the prescribed petroleum pricing formula. But it also says it can provide guidelines for marketing operations and fair competition in the petroleum downstream industry.
You see, guidelines are to further explain regulations.
Yes.
Just as regulations are to further regulations are underpinned by an act. to further expand the act.
Mm-hmm.
That is the hierarchy, and that is important. And law is informed by national policy. And in the policy arena, we have decided as a country that we must sell petroleum at the same price across the length and breadth of the country, from Sampa to Aflao, from Hamile to Accra.
Yes.
We must sell at the same price. If an OMC, and remember the dealer's margin is fixed by each OMC. The dealer's margin is fixed by each OMC.
Mm-hmm.
So if an OMC force is so efficient and that it's reducing its dealer's margin and other margins that they have the power to fix, then it should be across the whole network. And the benefit of their efficiency should be enjoyed by all consumers, not selected consumers.
Okay. So you're saying the regulator should enforce the law and ensure that the right things are done.
Absolutely.
Now, before you continue, that same regulator seems to disagree with you when it says in point 11 of the Petroleum Product Pricing Guidelines that notwithstanding point 10 above, a retail outlet may offer discounts to consumers. However, the discounted price shall not be below the prevailing ex-pump price floor set by the authority at any point.
No, it doesn't disagree with me. I recognize that an OMC may offer discounts. That is not the point of contention. The point of contention is that this discount must be across the whole network, not at selected filling stations.
Great. But you see, what you say, point 10 is where it says OMCs and LPGMCs shall ensure that all retail outlets, all operating under the sponsorship, always have a uniform ex-pump price and that these prices are the same as those that have been communicated to the NPA. Then 11 says, point 10 above notwithstanding, a retail outlet, which means, for instance, if you pick, say, Goil or Star Oil, and I have lots of retail outlets, I could just decide that one of them says a retail outlet may offer discounts to consumers. The discounted price shall not be below the prevailing ex-pump price floor set by the authority at any point in time. Dr. Kwabena Donkor.
You see, once you go on that route, you are contravening the essence, the spirit, and the letter of the Uniform Petroleum Pricing Policy.
Okay. Now, before you go finally, that point well made, but before you go finally, there are those who say NPA should remove the price floor. Do you agree?
It will not be protecting even the industry from itself. When you do that, these are marketing gimmicks. When you do that, you create a situation where suddenly one or two OMCs become so dominant that whenever they decide to change their practice, it will impact negatively on the consumer. Right now, the consumer is being courted. And it's like a gentleman courting a lady. After the courting phase, there will be reality.
Okay.
That we are not recovering costs, and so we want higher prices.
Dr. Kwabena Donkor, thank you very much for joining us this morning. We're grateful.
Thank you.